Ugh, I'm gonna need some Hennessy to wash that down. Hey yo, what's good? Welcome to The Gist. With me, Jared. The Boys Season 4 was alright. Probably my least favorite out of all the seasons. Obviously, a lot of the appeal with The Boys is the subversive, graphic, no-holds-barred nature of the show. Season 4 definitely brings a lot of that to the table. There were even some moments I honestly found quite hard to watch. Shout out Sage. If there is a proverbial line, The Boys has definitely crossed it. So if you're in it for the shock value, Season 4 will probably deliver that for you. However, for me, the shock and awe and parody of this season was ultimately something that I didn't really like. As with seasons before, there is quite a bit of political posturing and political satire in this show. There are a lot of parallels to be drawn to recent events in America. The social and political commentary was significantly more direct and heavy-handed this season, especially in that finale. It got to a point where it was kind of cliche and predictable, and ultimately got to a point where I didn't find it really funny, especially in comparison to the previous seasons. There were a handful of sequences, though, that were a bit more subtle, that I did appreciate. The Boys also expanded on their versions of Batman and Spider-Man in this season. This was another part of the show I didn't really like. The depictions of these two characters was a significant turn for the perverse. Once again, if you're in it for the shock and awe of how far a show will go, Season 4 absolutely brings it with Tech Knight and Webweaver. But for me, it was a part of the story I didn't enjoy. I found it more gross than it was funny. From a narrative standpoint, the plot is hit or miss. Homelander's and Butcher's storylines were notably the most compelling. But for the other characters, I didn't resonate or enjoy where they were going. The plot line with Huey's mom didn't click with me at all. Despite what the story tried to go for, I never found myself rooting for redemption between her and Huey. I also didn't like what they were doing with Frenchie and Kimiko's relationship. Frenchie's character arc struck me as more regressive than developmental. And then Kimiko is given a bit more layers and context and intrigue, but there's not really much that they do with it. Even with what happens in the finale, I was still pretty unsatisfied. The most redeeming aspects about Season 4 was Homelander and Butcher. I did like seeing Homelander's further descent into madness. I also like the angle of Homelander and Ryan. Ryan's another character I don't like in the show, but some of the story elements this season garnered a bit more interest in me. I am quite curious to see how he further develops in light of the events that have happened. I will mention that the Homelander and Firecracker dynamic also felt like another character regression. Homelander is interesting enough that I didn't feel that it was necessary to reintroduce an old plot point. The performances by Anthony Starr and Carl Urban are really carrying the show for me. I liked how we see Butcher struggle with right and wrong during this season. Jeffrey Dean Morgan was an awesome introduction as well. The Kessler and Butcher dynamic is a definite strength of this season. But with what they did with Butcher at the finale, I'm gonna need some more Henny for that one.
He will be wrathful. Gods, show me a little wrath.
Tentacle Billy. I am not with it. The Kessler, Billy, and Becca relationship was so interesting. The moral breakdown of Butcher and the reveal was so good and unexpected. And then to have it culminate in the V'd-up tentacled Butcher was so disheartening. I was hoping they'd keep Butcher off of the superpowers, but unfortunately, I was wrong. I was also hoping for Victoria to stay alive too. I like the secrecy, deceptive, and cunning aspects of her character that it saddens me to see her go. And then Homelander's back on the breast milk. Again, as mentioned before, it felt like an unnecessary regression for his character. I would have preferred if they made Firecracker significant to him in some other way, because I was so annoyed that they brought this back up. Especially after he murdered and tortured the scientists who experimented on him as a child. It seemed like they were conveying that Homelander was letting go and reconciling with the things in his past. obviously in a twisted, messed up kind of way. So to have this brought back up was displeasing, to say the least. Also, how did Starlight get to the bunker so fast? If she's using the Find My iPhone feature, wouldn't she need one of her own devices? It didn't seem like she had any access to technology in the cell that she was being held in, so it seemed way too convenient for her to show up at the underground bunker at just the right time to save the day. And that's the gist to some of my spoiler-free and spoiler-filled thoughts on The Boys Season 4. Overall, I'm still in with The Boys. From what I've heard, Season 5 is the last one, and I'm invested to see how the story finishes up, though I will admit that my enthusiasm for the show isn't as strong as it was with Season 1. I'd like to know what you think of Season 4. Was the shock and awe enough to satisfy you, or were you left wanting more from the story? What are your predictions for Season 5? Hit me up! Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'll catch you next time on The Gist. Another one for the road.